In July 2023, your bank sent you a letter. You probably threw it away. It was buried with the credit card offers and the grocery store coupons. It was titled, "Important Updates to Your Account." That letter announced the single most significant change to American banking in 50 years. Everything about how your money moves through our financial system transformed almost overnight. But they made it sound like a routine service upgrade? Think about that stack of mail you get, account statements, privacy policy updates, new fee schedules. We have all been trained for decades to ignore these notices. We ignore them because 99% of the time, they change nothing important. But this time was different. This time, your bank was telling you that your account was leaving traditional infrastructure and moving directly onto Federal Reserve rails. Let me paint you a picture of what actually happened. On July 20th, 2023, the Federal Reserve launched something called the FedNow service. This wasn't just another payment app. It wasn't a mobile banking feature. It was a new, government-owned, foundational layer for all money movement. 4 days later, on July 24th, customers of Webster Bank received their letter. A letter announcing exciting updates. Here is where the deception gets sophisticated. The Webster Bank letter spent most of its space telling customers what wouldn't change. Your account numbers stay the same. Your direct deposit keeps working. Your debit card functions normally. It even bragged about new benefits, like access to 40,000 ATMs through the MoneyPass network. Sounds pretty good, right? Nothing to worry about here. But buried in the tiny print of the disclosure document attached to that cheerful letter your account would no longer settle payments only through private banking networks. Instead, every transaction you make, every dollar you spend, every payment you receive, every transfer you make flows through Federal Reserve master accounts. The federal government can now see it all in real time. Your bank didn't ask for your permission. It informed you, after the fact, that your money was now on their track. If this playbook sounds familiar, it's because it is. This follows a pattern we've seen before in American financial history. Picture this. It's August 15, 1971. President Richard Nixon appears on national television. He announces that our country is temporarily suspending the convertibility of dollars to gold. He told Americans not to worry. He told them their paychecks would still come, their savings accounts would still work. The grocery store would still accept their money. He said this was a temporary measure to protect the dollar from international speculators, but everything had actually changed. The world had operated on the Bretton Woods system since 1944. The U.S. dollar was redeemable for gold at a fixed price of $35 per troy ounce. And with that 1971 announcement, it was over. We had just moved from sound money backed by gold to a fiat currency backed by nothing but government policy and decree. It was a complete financial regime change. And it was disguised as a temporary service improvement. Now, 52 years later, we are seeing the exact same playbook. A major financial regime change, disguised as a routine upgrade in a letter you were trained to ignore. The difference this time? They aren't just changing what your money is backed by. They are changing the architecture of how your money moves. And in doing so, they are building the foundation for total control. To understand what just happened, you have to understand the old system, the system that FedNow just replaced. For 50 years, your money hasn't moved in the way you think. When you got a paycheck, your employer didn't send money. They sent a digital message. This message went to a system called ACH, the Automated Clearinghouse. ACH was a revolutionary technology in 1974. It works on something called batch processing. Imagine a dump truck. All day long, transactions are thrown into the back of the truck. At 5 p.m., the truck drives to the settlement facility. It dumps its load. Then all the transactions are sorted overnight. This is why your paycheck, deposited on Friday, isn't available until Tuesday. The system is literally closed on weekends and holidays. In an age of instant data, your money was moving at the speed of a 1970s mainframe. This slowness wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a tax. In 2022, Americans paid over $15.5 billion in float, costs, and overdraft fees. Billions of dollars siphoned from the people who could least afford it, all because they couldn't get access to money they already had. The system was slow, private, and costing you a fortune. Everyone knew it was broken. But that old system had one critical feature. A feature that, it turns out, was a protection. It was called intermediation. Under the old system, payments moved between private banks. If you sent money from Chase to Bank of America, those two institutions settled the transaction between themselves. The Federal Reserve provided oversight, but it was not directly processing every individual transaction. Your bank was a buffer. Your bank maintained some independence. This is what just changed. FedNow changes this entire architecture. Your transactions now operate 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Every payment settles instantly and critically irrevocably. But where does it settle? This is the key. It settles through Federal Reserve master accounts. When you buy groceries, pay your rent. Or transfer money to your savings. The Federal Reserve itself processes that transaction in real time. Think about what this means for our financial privacy. Before July 2023, the government needed a subpoena. It needed a court order. It needed a national security letter to access your banking data. Banks served as intermediaries who could challenge unreasonable requests. They could protect customer information. Now, the Federal Reserve processes your transactions directly. They don't need to ask anyone for permission to monitor your financial activity. They don't need a warrant to see your spending patterns, because they are already handling your money at the infrastructure level. The buffer is gone. But here's the part that should really grab our attention. FedNow wasn't developed quickly in response to some crisis. The Federal Reserve announced this project back in August 2019. They spent 4 years building the infrastructure, testing the technology, and preparing banks for this transition. This was always the plan. The only question was how to move American bank accounts. Onto Federal Reserve rails, without creating public awareness or resistance. And they found the answer. The routine banking notice that 95% of customers never read. This brings us back to the Webster Bank letter. They spent paragraphs explaining new features like instant transfers and 24/7 availability. These benefits sound impressive, until you realize that Venmo, Cash App, and Zelle already provided the experience of instant transfers. The speed wasn't the real upgrade. The real change was architectural. Your bank account transformed from a private banking relationship into a direct connection with Federal Reserve infrastructure. So how did they achieve this migration so fast? This is where the adoption strategy gets brilliant. When FedNow launched on July 20th, 2023, only 35 early adopter banks went live. But the system was designed to achieve rapid adoption through correspondent banking relationships. When a large correspondent bank adopted FedNow all the smaller banks they service were forced to follow. Webster Bank provides the perfect example. They use a company called Fiserv for payment processing. Fiserv became a FedNow early adopter and partner. Fiserv also runs the MoneyPass network. That benefit of 40,000 ATMs wasn't a benefit. It was the bridge. It was the mechanism connecting over 2,000 financial organizations onto the FedNow infrastructure. What appeared to be individual bank choices was actually a coordinated top-down infrastructure transformation. This is why that letter emphasized MoneyPass benefits. They were telling you about ATM access, while hiding the fact that your account was being moved onto government rails. This new architecture has another feature that should concern us: irrevocability. When you send money through FedNow, that transaction cannot be recalled once it's completed. In as little as 7 seconds, it is final. This is fundamentally different from ACH payments, which allow reversals. It's different from credit card transactions, which enable chargebacks. Why would the Federal Reserve design a system without reversal mechanisms? The sales pitch is certainty for merchants. But think about it from a control perspective. Irrevocable transactions give the government unprecedented power. They can seize funds. They can freeze accounts. They can redirect payments. And there is no ability for banks or customers to reverse those actions. When emergency powers are declared, now infrastructure enables instant, irreversible financial control. But here's the real revelation. The final, terrifying piece of the puzzle. FedNow was not built to compete with Venmo. It was not built just to make payments faster. The Federal Reserve built FedNow to prepare our banking infrastructure for a central bank digital currency. A CBDC? This is the real purpose. Every feature of FedNow aligns perfectly with CBDC requirements: real-time settlement, direct government processing, irrevocable transactions, and centralized control through Federal Reserve master accounts. Fed officials, including Chair Jerome Powell, have been very clear. They have stated, FedNow is not a CBDC, and technically they are telling the 100% truth. FedNow is a payment rail. It moves existing commercial bank dollars. A CBDC is a new currency. A digital dollar held directly by you itself. They are two different projects, but this is the Trojan horse argument. You cannot have a retail CBDC without the rails to run it on. You can't run an instant 24/7 programmable currency on a 1974 batch system that's closed on weekends. You would need to build a new system first. A system that is government-run. A system that is instant. A system that operates 24/7. A system that every single bank is already connected to. In other words, you would have to build FedNow. FedNow is step 1, the highway. ACBDC is step 2, the fleet of government-controlled trucks. The Fed just spent 4 years building the highway. And that letter in July 2023 was the notice that your bank account is now an on-ramp. But here is the most significant and most disturbing aspect of this entire transformation. That letter you didn't read in July 2023 the FedNow infrastructure. According to the terms and conditions, buried in those disclosure documents, you also pre-approved the next phase of this transition? When the Federal Reserve launches its central bank digital currency, your existing FedNow-enabled account becomes ACBDC account automatically. The terms included vague legal language authorizing account migration to enhanced Federal Reserve services and digital payment innovations, language that sounds routine but legally covers CBDC implementation. By the time you realize what happened, the migration will be complete. Your consent was assumed rather than requested. The infrastructure transformation that will enable complete government control was accomplished through a routine banking notice that 95% of customers never read. Why is this the ultimate goal? Why are they so focused on a CBDC? Because a central bank digital currency isn't just digital dollars, it is programmable money. It is money with government code built into every single transaction. The Federal Reserve can program spending restrictions directly into your CBDC wallet. Money that expires if you don't use it quickly enough to stimulate the economy. Purchases that can only be made in certain locations. Purchases that can only be made for approved categories. Savings that are automatically transferred to government accounts during a declared emergency. Think about what this means for your daily financial decisions. Right now, if you want to drive across state lines firearm protection, donate to a political candidate considers unhealthy. You can use cash or private banking to maintain some privacy. Under a CBDC, every transaction is monitored, categorized, and subject to restrictions. Restrictions you cannot override. The Federal Reserve already tested these control mechanisms during the 2020 pandemic. Emergency rental assistance that could only be used for specific expenses. CBDC will make these restrictions permanent features of our money. So here is the control architecture they have created. The timeline is already operational. In 2019, the plan was announced through FedNow development. In 2023, the infrastructure launched and account migration began. Throughout 2024 and 2025, adoption accelerates across the entire banking system. By 2026, the Federal Reserve will announce CBDC pilot programs. Presented as a natural evolution of the improvements you already got from FedNow. By 2027 or 2028, major transactions will require CBDC usage. Traditional cash will be portrayed as outdated, unsafe, and inconvenient. Businesses will be required to refuse it. Banks will charge fees to deposit it. By 2030, full digital currency control is operational. Under this system, you have zero financial autonomy. All spending becomes subject to government code ... rather than personal choice. The most disturbing part? It was all accomplished without public debate, without democratic approval. Congress did not vote to authorize this. The Federal Reserve simply built the infrastructure ... through routine banking, notices ... and prepared for a mandatory digital currency transition. Your bank account didn't just change in July 2023, it became a node in a government payment control system. The infrastructure exists. The pathway to CBDC is complete. Your agreement to the FedNow terms was the authorization mechanism. The transformation happened quietly, efficiently, and irreversibly. Your money now flows through government infrastructure ... designed for one purpose: central bank digital currency implementation. The next phase doesn't require your permission. It's already authorized by the terms you accepted in the letter you didn't read. This leaves us with two starkly different realities. Is FedNow just a simple, convenient upgrade to a 50-year-old system? A way to get your paycheck on a Sunday? Or is it the foundation for a programmable, government-controlled digital dollar? Was that July 2023 letter a service update? Or a surrender of your financial privacy? Drop your prediction in the comments. Subscribe ... And we will revisit this when the Fed announces its CBDC pilot ... sometime between 26 and 22/7 ... to see if you were right. Script END.